All right, welcome to your last daily dose of Dudley for today. I promise. We're going to finish the chapter. There's only like 3 pages left. Um, we've gotten a lot about Cratchit, which should get you through your homework for tonight, but I also want you thinking about the nephew. We've wrapped that up. We're going to see sort of what the Ghost of Christmas Present has in store for Scrooge to end this whole evening before we head into the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. The one you're probably most familiar with his appearance, that Grim Reaper look. So let's get this going. We're at the very bottom of page 56. I left like a paragraph there. So remember, Scrooge was like basically enjoying the celebration and the games they were playing at his nephew's house. He was even yelling out answers to the games, even though they couldn't hear him. So, when he had begged the ghost to stay longer. So, Uncle. Okay, so much they saw, and far they went, and many homes they visited, but always with a happy end. The spirit stood beside sick beds, and they were cheerful, on foreign lands, and they were close at home by struggling men, and they were patient in their greater hope by poverty, and it was rich, an almshouse, hospital, and jail, and misery's every refuge, where vain man in this little brief authority had not made fast the door, and barred the spirit out. He left his blessings and taught Scrooge his precepts. It was a long night, if it were only a night, but Scrooge had his doubts of this, because the Christmas holiday appeared to be condensed into the space of time they passed together. It's more about the time and the condensed time and how long this time is. It was strange, too, that while Scrooge remained unaltered in his outward form, the ghost grew older, clearly older. Scrooge had observed this change, but never spoke of it until they left a children's 12th night party, when, looking at the spirit as they stood together in an open place, he noticed that its hair was gray. "Are spirits' lives so short?" asked Scrooge. "My life upon this globe is very brief," replied the ghost. "It ends tonight." "Tonight!" cried Scrooge. "Tonight at midnight. Hark! The time is drawing near." The chimes were ringing the 11:15 at that moment. "Forgive me if I'm not justified in what I ask," said Scrooge, looking intently at the spirit's robe. "But I see something strange and not belonging to yourself protruding from your skirts. Is it a foot or a claw?" "It might be a claw for the flesh there is upon it," was the spirit's sorrowful reply. "Look here." From the foldings of its robe it brought out 2 children, wretched, abject, frightful, hideous, miserable. So these 2 ugly little, almost ghoulish kids. They knelt down at its feet and clung upon the outside of its garment. "Oh, man, look here. Look down here," exclaimed the ghost. And this is where the ghost gets a little darker. He's kind of telling Scrooge, look at these 2 ugly children that have crawled out from underneath my robe. They were a boy and a girl, yellow, meager, haggard, ragged, scowling, wolfish, but prostrate too, in their humility. Where graceful youth should have filled their features out and touched them with its freshest tints, a state and shriveled hand like that of age had pinched and twisted them and pulled them into shreds. Where the angels might have sat enthroned, devils lurked and glared out menacing. No change, no degradation, no perversion of humanity in any grade, though all the mysteries of wonderful creation has monsters half so horrible and dread. Scrooge started back appalled. Having them shown to him in this way, he tried to say they were fine children, but the words choked themselves, rather than be parties to a lie of such enormous magnitude. "Spirit, are they yours?" Scrooge could say no more. "They are man's," said the spirit, looking down upon them, "and they cling to me, appealing from their fathers. This boy is ignorance, this girl is want. Beware them both, and all of their degree, but most of all beware this boy. For on his brow I see that written which is doom, unless the writing be erased. Deny it," cried the spirit, stretching out its hand toward the city. "Slander those who tell you, admit it for your factious purposes, and make it worse, and bide thy end." "Have they no refuge or resource?" cried Scrooge. "Are there no prisons?" said the spirit, turning on him from the last time with his own words. "Are there no workhouses?" The bell struck 12. Scrooge looked about him for the ghost and saw it not. For the last stroke ceased to vibrate. He remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground toward him. So these two children are kind of in themselves metaphors. They're personifications, according to the Ghost of Christmas Present, of they are ignorance. And remember, I've told you before, the word ignorance, especially at this time, didn't mean stupid. It meant sort of willfully just not knowing. It's a little different than being dumb. It just means like unaware. And he's basically saying be very careful of ignorance. Be careful of not knowing or refusing to gain knowledge. And the girl's name is Want, and he talks about them clinging to him. So ignorance and want clinging to Christmas. It's kind of like the ugly part of Christmas Present. And then right at midnight it disappears, and the last thing we get at the end of this chapter is Scrooge seeing a phantom wearing a hood sort of approaching him like a mist. So we'll get into that, which I think we can all infer is the ghost of Christmas yet to come. We'll get into that tomorrow. If you're watching this now, please be ready on your bell ringer to talk especially about Scrooge's nephew in your bell ringer tomorrow. Be aware of the fact that he does some of those same things that Bob Cratchit does. He toasts Scrooge. He actually celebrates him and then explains how he feels bad for him. He's not angry at him. He's like, it's his loss. He's the one who refuses to be around family or to have people around him, he's really just hurting himself, and I feel bad for him. And so he says, every Christmas, I'm just going to keep saying Merry Christmas and inviting him over. And maybe, just maybe, one of these years it'll help. Kind of like Bob Cratchit was like to Mr. Scrooge. He's the one who made this whole thing possible. Even though we know part of the reason they're poor is also because of Scrooge. So this is a very interesting chapter for him. So be ready to answer questions about those two events tomorrow. Okay? And we'll also look at some of the figurative language and stuff. Also might have a question on there about this ending, so you get the benefit. Okay? Ignorance and want. Ignorance is the boy, want is the girl. Okay? That's the last one for tonight. I will see you in class tomorrow, everybody. Good job.